not connected well right now.
All right. Great.
Alright, cool.
I think we're live right now. So everybody let us know if you can hear us. And we have Philippe in the back there. Should be able to keep an eye on all the comments coming through. So we're going to be potentially answering questions as we go, and at the end of the session as well we'll do a Q&A, so definitely stick around for that.
Perfect. So what we wanted to do is give you guys a bit of a recap. So last week we ran a live session on Instagram. We received around 25,000 sort of views on the session, which was incredible. I've been away from Instagram for over a year. I've made one post within that time, and last week we ran a live session. We went straight into it. We were teaching designers around the world how to utilize the prioritization tool on how for themselves, for their clients, or even for their teams if they're working in an internal team, how to actually prioritize your processes, but ultimately feature sets on what you need to design and what you need to build. We received overwhelming support and sort of like great feedback about that. So what we want to do in this session is actually take those learnings that we made in that session into a part 2. So now that you understand how to actually prioritize some of the feedback or some of the features that your client is expecting, how do you take that and translate it into user flows and wireframes very rapidly? So in this session, Danny's going to walk you through exactly how we do that at Raw.Studio, how we work extremely lean, extremely raw, and how we produce world-class experiences very quickly for our clients. So Danny will be taking away.
Yeah, great. So let's jump in. We're going to have to troubleshoot some things just really quickly on the fly, but as Mizko mentioned, last week we did a Instagram live session where we talked about how to do MVPs. So you can see there on the screen that you can get the Instagram handle to join those sessions in the future, because we're going to be running a lot more. All right, just setting up the webcam because our camera last minute decided that it didn't want to work, but that's okay. So you should be able to see me on screen now. All right, so let us know if you can see me in the comments below, but I'm sure it's working. Okay, so part 1 is on Instagram. This is going to be part 2, and we're looking at user flows and wireframes for a car marketplace. So we're going to be looking at a couple features here. Those are the home page. We're going to create a listing page and a car overview page where you can see the car itself. And the reason for choosing these particular features, you can learn more about that by checking out the Instagram video. All right, so for user flows are basically a bit of a map of how a user interacts with a website or an app. So they're really beneficial because they can clearly and quite quickly show how a user flows through an application. So we're going to use Whimsical for this, and I'm going to jump over to Whimsical right now. So this is the Whimsical website. We don't have an affiliation with these guys at all, but their product is really good and really easy to use. So we're going to be using it for this tutorial. You can see that they do, flowcharts. They also have a pretty good wireframing feature and sticky notes, but we're going to look at the flowcharts today. So when you create a new project in Whimsical, you get this empty artboard here, and you can start laying out boxes or shapes. So a user flow, as I mentioned, kind of shows you how a user goes through an application. So we would start by saying the user first would enter the landing page, and then once they're there, they might take an action. And that action could be to sort of search for a car, because this is a car marketplace, so they're likely there to look for a car. So we're going to type in search for car. Now, at this point, we could add a decision into the flow, which will make sense in a moment, but basically a decision or a sort of if statement is represented by a diamond. So that's, in this case, is going to be, do we know the user's location? So after they've landed on the landing page, they're searching for a car, and at this point we want to know, do we know their location? And if we don't know their location, then we're going to show them all the listings for all the cars that we have on the platform. But if we do know their location, then we're going to want to be a bit more specific and show them the cars in the location that they're in. So you can see now that this diamond is showing the listings in area. It's showing what happens if we do know their location or if we don't know their location. So let's keep going along this flow as if we know their location. So what might happen next after they see the car listings in their area is they could click through to the overview for a specific car. And at this point, they might take another action, which could potentially be to favorite this car. And they might also even make an offer to purchase the car. So another kind of cool thing that we can do with user flows is account for what might happen if we want to save something, on a database or in the user's profile. And we can type that in here and make a note so that when we're explaining the flow to somebody and we're referencing this user flow, we can say, well, when the user favorites something, we want to add that favorited item to their favorites list, and then this could be referenced on their profile later. So after somebody makes an offer on a car, then they would be taken to a success page. So this is the kind of a user flow example that we wanted to show to you today. And you can see that I'm creating a little circle here, which is a great way to sort of signify the start of a flow. And we can also add a circle to the end, which shows that this is the end of the flow. So this is it. And of course, this is quite simple. You can make these a lot more complex, but you can see that the user hits the landing page, they search for a car. Do we know their location? If we do, they get the listings in their area. They can view an overview of that car. They can add it to their favorites, and they can make an offer. And after they've made an offer, they get a success page. And that is the end of this user flow. So I'll let you guys kind of take a look at this for a second, but just really want to reiterate that this is a super simple and useful way to communicate how to flow through an app with your clients or with a developer or another designer on the project. All right, so we're going to jump into Figma now and actually create the wireframes for this project. So we're using Figma, which is a really powerful design tool. It's similar to Sketch or Adobe XD in that it's kind of purpose-built for web design and app design. So yeah, it's a great UX tool. And we're going to create wireframes. And wireframes are a super low fidelity or sort of medium fidelity. They're not too complex, they're not too high detail. And they're sort of a design that helps you communicate the key kind of areas on a site. All right, so we're going to jump in and start by laying out an artboard. As a tool to help us create this wireframe quite quickly, we're actually using a wireframe kit that we at Raw.Studio have created ourselves. And this isn't out yet. It's coming out very soon. It's called Wireframing. So you can see on the left here that we have all these amazing kind of components to choose from, and it's all very well organized. So if I just read down this list, we have inputs, sort of modals, radio buttons, a whole bunch of stuff. And we also have complete layouts here. So for our design, let's start by adding some layout pieces. I'm going into desktop layouts. There's a dark and a light mode available on wireframing. So if you're interested in speeding up your wireframe process, definitely check this one out because it comes with some amazing features. We're going to choose a light mode and we're going to get a navigation and just drag that straight in. And you can see now that we have this great and simple navigation. And let's fill this out a little bit. I'll just change the artboard background so that we can see the navigation. So this little image here could be the logo, and then if it's a car marketplace website, maybe the first menu item should be a showroom, and then for users who want to sell cars, we could add that here. Potentially if people want to read reviews, they can, or if they want to get kind of news on the latest cars, they can get that too. So on the right of the navigation, we might have the ability to join or register, and for existing users, we want to allow them to sign in. And this kind of main call to action on the navigation, because we are a business and we're trying to get people to join the platform, we would want to make it something that is strategic. And in this case, we're going to make this sell a car because we want to get more cars on the platform. All right, now this hero section, let's think of adding maybe something nice and dark and kind of immersive. So I'm just looking in my layouts now, and I think that this would be a great fit. So you can see how easy it is to add components straight into the Figma file using wireframing. So we'll add a link to wireframing down in the description below on YouTube. So be sure to check that out. And this version isn't out yet, but it's coming out very soon. Okay, so when they land on the page, we want them to understand what the website does straight away. And in this case, it's going to be about finding your dream car. So the H1 is find your dream car, and they can enter their location. Let's also have them we'll give them some options so they can narrow down their search for the perfect car. And I think that giving them a drop down with a couple options would be a good way to start. So let's put a drop down in here and make this model, so they can choose the model of the car. And you can see how easily I added that drop down in. I didn't have to design it, it was just ready to go. And I also can super simply just copy and paste these components, because the wireframing kit is created so that it can use auto layouts, which are really fast and really powerful. And in a couple seconds or maybe a minute or so, you can see this hero section is done. So let's keep on moving on to the other sections. So below the hero section, we want to add, probably draw attention to a couple key features. So let's look at the desktop layouts and find a good overview to showcase some features of the site. And this looks pretty good to me. So this is just a layout with sort of dummy copy to work with. And we can jump in and start changing the text. So I don't think that a title is necessary here, and the subtitle also probably not necessary. But if these three sections are dedicated to features that users may find a lot of value into, then that could be great. So I've started with 2 here. I think that considering this is an MVP, a minimal viable product, it's kind of what are the minimal features that are going to give the most value. to make a viable product, and I think that would be allowing users to sell a car or to find great deals. So we're going to add some button copy in here as well, and we want to make the button copy very explicit, very clear, so that users know what to expect after they click a button. Okay, so for this next section, maybe instead of, for users that don't want to kind of search, but rather they want to browse around, then we could kind of show them some brands of cars here, and that would be pretty beneficial, so at a glance they can work out what they're going to, what they can expect to find on the site. So I've just jumped into the wireframe desktop layout and grabbed a banner of some images, and we could add here view car brands, and then these are placeholder images, but in the actual UI version, the visual designed version, these could be the actual logos that you could click through. But for now, we just want to create a really simple and fast kind of layout to communicate this. So these placeholder images are a great way to do that. So the next section, we could think about getting a bit custom here and creating a layout of our own. So I'm thinking that we start with a heading and make it find your type of rides, and I'll make this a H2. So I'm using the wireframe built-in text sizes here, which is really convenient to be able to simply place a H2 or a H1, etc. So in terms of the content for this section, I think that we will include, the different types of rides here. So the first one might be a sedan, and we'll just change this font size, bring it down a little bit, because we want to make sure that the hierarchy of the information is well considered. So by making the top title larger, that's going to be a really great way to draw attention to it first before drawing attention to these other areas. So we've got a sedan, and then maybe we want to also offer wagons, and what this is going to be eventually is a list of different car types. So by using order layout, I've just grouped these, and now I can really easily kind of paste multiple boxes and add in the different types of cars that we are thinking of adding. So you can see I've got a hatch, a ute, an SUV, and also a truck here, because these are probably the most common types of cars that users would want. And now for the bottom of the page, we want to add a footer in. So I've just searched for footers here, and I've got my list of footers that I can choose from. And I'm just popping in one that has a email kind of sign up, because that would be pretty neat to allow users to sign up to a email newsletter and receive information about new deals. And you can see that we're done with the landing page, and how quick and easy was that. So you can imagine that using wireframing is so valuable if you're looking to rapidly share ideas and designs with your team or clients that you're working with or developers. All right, so let's take a look at this page. We've got a really simple header with effective kind of items, showroom, sell, review. We've got this nice hero section, find your dream car. So the background here could be an image of a car, and as you scroll down, the two sort of secondary call to actions are to sell your car or find a great deal. We can view some car brands. We can find the actual type of car that we're interested in, whether it's a sedan, a wagon, a hatchback, a ute, and we can check out a footer with some links to the other pages and an email sign up. Okay, so now what happens after the user has decided to search for a car? We want to show them a list of the different cars that match their search. So let's copy this page and keep the header, because the header we want to be fairly consistent amongst all the pages. And now we want to show some search results. So let's say there's about 512 results, making sure that this title is nice and clear by making it a H2 title. And now we're going to work on showing the actual car result itself. I'm going to drag in a image. Awesome, this looks good. This can be an image of the car. Let's scale it up a little bit. You can see that that's scaled up really perfectly because Wireframey has the auto layout feature built into it. And now let's give a title for this car. So maybe this can be a Tesla Model 3. It's a pretty badass car. So whoever it is that's searching this has taste in expensive cars, I guess. All right, so the cost of this car will be on the top right, because as sort of a primary piece of information, we want to know what car we're looking at and probably how much it costs as well. So I'm not sure how much this car actually costs. Let's just put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that will do. So now to kind of group up these elements a bit, we're going to add a white background, and you may be able to see on the screen there that I'm contrasting this white with a gray background to help it stand out a little bit. So in this area we could add some sort of tertiary information, and that might be info about the year that the car was made, or the location of the car. It could be anything, but for now I don't really want to go to the effort of typing that out because this is just a wireframe, a low fidelity wireframe. So instead I'm adding just in some placeholder dummy text as a little components, which clearly shows that there should be text here, but at this time we don't exactly care what that is because we're just conveying the sort of main layout. And now there should be sort of an action that you can take on this card. When you design a card, they typically have this layout where there's an image, there's a title, there's some metadata or tertiary data, and then there is a call to action on the card, which is going to be make an inquiry, and there could be a secondary button here as well, which we could keep as view details of this car. Alright, so we've got one card now. We're just going to group that and drag it down to make this look like a list, and I'm hitting Command D to make duplicates, and bang, you can see that we have a list of cars now. So in terms of this page, it's feeling good because we're achieving sort of displaying cars that the user has looked for, but I think we could add a couple useful features like some sorting options and filtering options. So the user may want to sort this page by sort of the price of the cars or the location of the cars, and we could do that by allowing the user to choose like what type of car shows first, and in this case let's just say that they're showing the price first. So you can imagine that a user could click this drop down and then choose between price or show by closest to me location, or show by the time updated. And we could also now have some filters here. So in terms of the filters that a user might want to use to get a more specific search result, that might be a location filter, so they could search what or filter what location the cars are in. We could also add filtering by price. Maybe they can set a price range that they want, They could filter by the year of the car. They could filter by the type of transmission that the car is, if it's auto or manual, and maybe they want to know if it's a new or a used car. You get the idea. So we will tidy this up a little bit, but it's really not that important that the design's perfect. At this point, we just want to get across the main details. So another cool feature that we could consider adding is the ability to get notified when new cars with these search results come available. So let's give the user an option to set up some notifications here by adding a bit of a switch kind of feature where they can turn on the notifications. So I'm just creating this now. We're going to add some text, get notified to avoid missing out. So that's fairly self-explanatory. They can see that there's a notification icon, so they have some context. There's a call to action title saying get notified. And we're going to add a switch here as well so that they can turn this on. Okay, so this is looking good for a MVP. We have the car results, and then we have the ability to sort by price, or they could change it to location. We have some filters. We can set the transmission type if it's a new or a used car. Then we can turn on some notifications so that we get notified about when new cars are appearing here. Awesome. So that was super simple, really easy to do using wireframing again, and you can see that everything is nice and visually consistent. It looks very professional, and it was quick, which is most important. Cool. So after this, let's take a look at a sort of car overview section, and this will be the last section that we're approaching, which will showcase kind of some details about the car. So I'm going to go back to my assets and find a good layout here. So I think that maybe a gallery of the car would be quite nice. Let's look in the galleries option. So there's all these pre-built galleries to work with, which is super convenient. And bang, like that, you can imagine that this could be the type of car, the Tesla Model 3. This could be some secondary text like the location, for instance, which could be Sydney, and then we could have a call to action, make an offer. All right, that's the hero section done, and this kind of image gallery here is the images of the car itself that you can flick through. So now the user will probably want to know some features about the car, and I've just dragged in a sort of features section here that we're going to customize to make it fit our needs. And I'm only using, I think, 4 key features. We don't want to have too many features for this. We could say how many kilometers are on the car, what type of car it is. It's a coupe, and is it an automatic car? Yes, it is. And how many what is the sort of battery life, because this is a Tesla, so it has a battery life to work with. And yeah, cool. So now the user would have an overview of kind of what this car includes, the features of it, and they might want to look a bit more in detail at some images. So let's add a nice kind of immersive dark gallery here. So I'm just looking through the gallery options. Awesome. This looks pretty good, pretty immersive. The images are really going to help create a sort of highly attractive and emotional kind of experience for users, so that they can see the car, they can assess it, they can also kind of view all the details of it. So this is looking pretty good for a car overview page now. I don't think we need to do anything too crazy in terms of giving a insight to what the car is like, but we could also think about one more section where we show similar cars, and let's reuse an existing component that we already created for simplicity's sake. We do want to ensure that this wireframe we're making is simple and that we're doing it quickly, because it's just to validate the ideas. So this section here could be other cars you may like, and instead of being car types, we could make these different models of cars. So you can imagine that each one of these is a different model. And then that is pretty much that page. Let's add a footer onto all these pages to keep things consistent and allow the user to search the entire site. So we're going to just pop footers down here and then clean up the artboards a little tiny bit, and we're pretty much done. Yeah, look at that. We have 3 pages completely created in a couple minutes, super rapid. You can see that we've got the home page, the car listing page, and an overview of the product as well. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can see how wireframing can be done quite quickly, and it is really efficient using Wireframey, the wireframe kit, which is going to be coming out soon. You can see it's visually consistent, and everything has clear labels, clear hierarchy built into it. So yeah, I'm keen to see some of your questions. So let us know if you have any questions in the comments. And how's it looking, Philippe? We're coming up at...
Yeah, pretty good.
It's
It's
about
been
time
delayed,
now.
So if anyone has some questions, it will pop in like in a few minutes.
All right, so we're just going to wait for some questions to come in. So Mizko, now that we've made these wireframes here, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about these wireframes? How do they speak to you?
Mm-hmm.
How does it make you feel?
I think in terms of like what we've created, I think it's perfect in terms of like just a wireframe. The goal is really not to, like you said, not to show too much of the visuals. It's really just to give the client or the internal team, or even just yourself, an idea of where design should head, what the direction is, what sort of content might we need. Everything is sort of quite placeholder-ish. In terms of the listings, I think that's great. We've got some nice filters. They're the key priorities, so you can quickly scan and see, cool, I can actually filter by these options. Then you also have the listings, which I feel like are great. Clarity on the cards, so they're quite separated from the background. Clear indication on price. View details inquiry, which is good for people who are sort of still in the discovery and the exploration stage. You've got inquiry for people who are ready to sort of like get in contact with people. So I think that's perfect. I love the get notified to avoid missing out. That's a nice little touch. So yeah, I think it's perfect. I think as you click into the car listings page, a dedicated area for some of the items and characteristics of the car, a nice gallery, similar cars you may like. I think this, within the 15 minutes that we've been able to produce these wireframes, I think this is definitely a very quick way for us to rapidly prototype for clients or even for ourselves. So great work. It's really good.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to keep updated with the content that we're putting out. We're going to be looking at visual design and UI design next. We're going to potentially take these wireframes and turn them into really pixel perfect, beautiful UI design using some pretty advanced and pretty cool features. So be sure to stick around for that one. All right,
Perfect.
Cool.